A tense hush fell over the crowded courtroom as a young girl stood, trembling slightly, her words barely audible. She explained why her mother had skipped yet another custody hearing, and every ear strained to catch her. The judge leaned forward, his jaw tight, patience thinning with each passing second. Then she spoke the words that made the room shiver. Her mother was a Navy SEAL. Laughter bubbled up, until the judge, a veteran Navy officer himself, fixed her with a piercing stare. "There are no female Navy SEALs," he said, voice cold and unyielding. Just as tears threatened to spill, the courtroom doors slammed open. Silence hit like a hammer. From which city are you watching this unfold? If stories of truth-defying impossible odds intrigue you, hit subscribe and stay with us for every twist. The mahogany-paneled courtroom of Philadelphia County seemed alive with a century's worth of judgment. Dust motes floated through sunlight streaming tall windows, suspended like silent witnesses. At the plaintiff's table, Adrian Blackwood fidgeted, adjusting his tie, eyes darting to his daughter. The history professor from Temple University looked exhausted, sleep a stranger. Ella Blackwood sat beside her father's attorney, unnervingly still, a young girl who seemed carved from calm itself. Her dark hair was tied in a perfect braid, and a strange compass pendant hung from her neck. She traced it occasionally in patterns that hinted at secrets only she understood. Judge Harrison Prescott entered, military precision evident in every movement. The bailiff's call for all to rise echoed. 20 years as a JAG officer had forged a man intolerant of theatrics. "We continue the custody hearing for Ella Blackwood," he announced, scanning papers. "Once again, the respondent is absent." Opposing counsel Meredith Vance stood sharply. "Yes, Your Honor." Commander Blackwood has missed her third consecutive hearing. Reinforcing the pattern of absence spanning 8 years, Adrian's attorney laid out evidence of neglect. Missed birthdays, ignored parent-teacher conferences, hospital visits unattended. "Your Honor, Mr. Blackwood has been the constant in Ella's life." Meanwhile, Miss Blackwood vanishes for months with barely a word. "We ask for full custody, with supervised visits if she appears." Judge Prescott nodded, pen scratching notes. "Miss Vance?" "Your Honor, we've attempted repeatedly to bring Miss Blackwood here. Her absences speak for themselves. She claims work prevents her attendance, yet provides no proof, no contacts, no explanations. This shows a disregard for her child's welfare." All eyes turned to Ella. "Ella Blackwood, approach the stand," Judge Prescott said. 12 years old, she walked with a composed air that belied her age. Fingers traced the compass pendant as she sat. "Ella, tell the court about your mother," the judge asked, voice softening. "She loves me. She loves me not," Ella replied steadily. "She can't always be here, but it's not because she doesn't want to be." "And why not? Does she explain her absences?" "She can't tell us." "It's classified." A ripple of murmurs passed through the room. Judge Prescott raised an eyebrow. "Classified? What exactly does she do?" Ella paused, fingers moving in a pattern resembling military signals. A subtle nod from Adrian gave her courage. "She serves in a special Navy program," she said, voice calm yet clear. "She's one of the first female Navy SEALs." The courtroom erupted into stifled laughter. Judge Prescott's lips twitched, betraying disbelief. Meredith Vance smirked openly. "Young lady," the judge said, removing his glasses with deliberate patience, "this is a court of law. I served 20 years in the Navy. There are no female Navy SEALs. That program doesn't exist." The courtroom erupted into laughter. Ella's cheeks burned, but her gaze stayed steady. "She is," Ella insisted softly. "I'm not lying." "This court does not tolerate fabrications, even from child Ella," Judge Prescott said, his voice cutting through the fading chuckles. especially when those fabrications dishonor the servicemen and women who risk everything for our freedoms. Adrian rose, face flushed with anger. Your Honor, my daughter is not lying. Mr. Blackwood, control yourself, or I will hold you in contempt, Judge Prescott warned sharply. Now, young lady, you'll have another chance to speak truthfully about your mother's absences. For the first time, Ella's composure cracked. Her voice trembled, raw with emotion. I am telling the truth. My mother serves our country. She can't tell us where she goes or what she does, but she loves me, and she's a hero, and no one believes me. Judge Prescott exhaled, scribbling a note. Miss Vance, your cross-examination. Opposing counsel approached, a practiced smile masking no warmth. Ella, has your mother told you to claim she is a Navy SEAL? No. Ella answered immediately. She never told me. I figured it out myself. You figured it out, Miss Vance echoed, skeptical. How exactly? I found her training journal when I was 8. I've overheard her secure calls. I've seen her scars and calluses that match special operations, and she knows naval secrets ordinary people wouldn't. So you've been spying on your mother, Miss Vance suggested. Objection, Adrian's attorney interrupted. Badgering the witness. Sustained, Judge Prescott said. Miss Vance, rephrase. Adjusting, Miss Vance pressed on. Ella, has your father ever suggested your mother might be involved in classified military operations? No. Ella shook her head. Dad doesn't know either. He just knows she works for the government and cannot discuss it. So neither Pa Lot told you she's a Navy SEAL, yet you ask this court to believe it. I know it's true, Ella said, regaining stellic. Just because adults don't tell you doesn't mean you can't figure it out. Suddenly, a court officer approached the bench, whispering urgently into Judge Prescott's ear. His expression flickered. Confusion, disbelief, then something unreadable. This court will take a 10-minute recess, he announced abruptly. Counsel, approach the bench before leaving. As lawyers gathered, Ella returned to her seat beside Adrian, clutching the compass pendant. He put an arm around her shoulder and whispered, but she only shook her head. What's happening? Adrian asked his attorney. I'm not certain, she admitted. The judge received some notification. He wants everyone to remain in the courtroom, but wouldn't explain why minutes dragged. The gallery whispered, eyes flicking to Ella and Adrian. Miss Vance shuffled papers nervously, checking her watch repeatedly. Exactly 10 minutes later, Judge Prescott returned. Demeanor altered. Slowly, deliberately, he sat, arranging papers. Before we continue, he began, voice neutral, the court has been informed that additional testimony will be provided, relevant to this case. This witness will be accommodated immediately. Miss Vance rose, alarmed. Your Honor, we were not notified. We request time to prepare for cross-examination. Noted, counsel, Judge Prescott replied. However, circumstances demand immediate testimony. You'll understand shortly. He nodded to the bailiff who opened the courtroom doors with a formal sweep. The heavy doors swung wide with commanding precision. Commander Blackwood appeared in full Navy dress blues, uniform immaculate, medals catching the light. She exuded authority. Shoulders squared, chin high, eyes forward. Though not particularly tall, her bearing radiated power. Behind her, 6 Navy SEALs, 3 men, 3 women in formation, faces impassive, posture perfect. The laughter from minutes before vanished. Silence gripped the room so tightly that Commander Blackwood's measured footsteps echoed ominously as she strode down the center aisle. Judge Prescott slowly rose, eyes locked on the insignia and medals that told a story he had refused to believe. Color drained from his face, the earlier smugness replaced by something approaching awe. The SEALs followed Commander in flawless step, their synchronized movements forming a rhythm that hypnotized the courtroom. They lined up behind the respondent's table, standing at parade rest. Ella's eyes widened, her hand dropping from the pendant as her mother approached. Adrian froze, his expression a tangle of vindication and uncertainty. Commander Blackwood stopped at the proper distance from the bench and executed a perfect salute. Commander Blackwood, United States Navy, reporting as ordered, Your Honor. Judge Prescott returned the salute automatically, trained muscle memory overriding his judicial persona. The courtroom remained utterly silent, all eyes fixed on the commanding figure and the 6 uniformed SEALs behind her. "Permission to approach, Your Honor?" Commander Blackwood asked, voice crisp and controlled. Judge Prescott nodded, seemingly at a loss for words. Commander Blackwood stepped forward, presenting a sealed folder to the bailiff, who handed it to the judge. "These documents were declassified this morning for this hearing, sir. They explain my absences and verify my daughter's testimony." The judge accepted the folder with a slight nod, opening it carefully. Page by page his eyes widened, disbelief giving way to stunned acknowledgement. While he read, the SEAL unit shifted to stand behind Ella, forming a living wall of protection and validation. Lieutenant Tahira Okafor briefly placed a hand on Ella's shoulder before returning to parade rest. Ella's fingers traced the pendant one last time. Across the room, her mother mirrored the motion, a silent, private communication now visible to all. Opposing counsel Meredith Vance shifted uneasily, shuffling papers without purpose, clearly unprepared. Adrian Blackwood watched the unfolding scene with a storm of pride, hurt, and vindication etched across his face. After several tense minutes, broken only by the sound of turning pages, Judge Prescott finally lifted his gaze. Mockery had vanished. Rev. Ellis lingered. "The court will take a 30-minute recess," he announced, voice slightly unsteady. "When we reconvene, this hearing will continue in my chambers with limited attendance. Commander Blackwood, Mr. Blackwood, counsel for both parties, and the minor child only." As the courtroom emptied, eyes repeatedly glanced back at the SEALs standing at attention. Ella finally moved. She walked directly to her mother, stopping just short of an embrace, instinctively respecting the protocols her mother's uniform demanded. Commander Blackwood looked down at Ella, and for a fleeting moment, her military rigidity softened. "You kept faith," she said quietly. "Always," Ella replied. The bailiff approached. "Commander, the judge has arranged a conference room for your unit to wait comfortably." Commander Blackwood nodded. "Thank you." She turned to her team. "At ease. Lieutenant Okafor, accompany me to the judge's chambers. The rest remain on standby." The SEALs acknowledged crisply and filed out behind the bailiff. Lieutenant Okafor remained at parade rest beside Commander Blackwood. In the nearly empty courtroom, Adrian approached cautiously, stopping several feet away. 8 years, he said softly. 8 years of not knowing, of watching Ella wonder if you cared at all. "I know," Commander replied, voice soft yet firm. "I'll answer for that, but not here, not now." Adrian nodded once, glancing at Lieutenant Okafor and the remaining SEALs by the door. "So, it's all true." "Everything Ella said. She's sharper than we realized," Commander said with a touch of pride. "She pieced it together years ago and never mentioned it until recently." Ella stood between her pilots, eyes flicking between them, still touching neither. "I knew you wouldn't believe me, Dad." "No one would. That's why I never told you what I figured out before Adrian opened his mouth to respond." The bailiff returned, signaling the next stage of proceedings. "Judge Prescott is ready for you now." The chambers were lined with military memorabilia and law books, 2 worlds that had shaped his identity. Judge Prescott sat behind his desk, the declassified documents open before him, his earlier certainty replaced by humility. "Please be seated," he said, gesturing to the chairs. Lieutenant Okafor took position near the door, standing at parade rest. Once everyone was settled, Judge Prescott cleared his throat. "Commander Blackwood, I owe your daughter an apology. These documents confirmed the existence of the program she described, a classified initiative integrating women into special operations, including a modified SEAL training protocol. Commander Blackwood remained perfectly poised. The program has been active for 7 years, Your Honor. I was among the first selected, which explains my absences, deployments, training cycles, missions that cannot be discussed. Judge Prescott nodded. Yes, sir. My service required absolute secrecy, even from my family. Commander's gaze shifted to Adrian. He was only told I was on classified assignments. The nature of those assignments remained confidential. Adrian ran a hand through his hair. I understood she was serving, but the frequency and length of absences were impossible to explain to Ella. When she couldn't even call during emergencies, when she missed Ella's hospitalization with pneumonia, her elementary graduation. I thought she had chosen career over family. I served my country at the cost of serving my daughter, Commander admitted, the first crack in her professional demeanor. I'm here to correct that imbalance. Judge Prescott turned to Ella. How did you know your mother's actual role? These documents were classified at the highest level. Ella touched her pendant. She never told me directly. I found her training journal when I was 8. No mention of SEAL, but it had swimming distances, combat exercises, instructor names I later researched. I overheard secure calls. I put it together, and you kept her secret, Judge Prescott said with newfound respect, even when no one believed you. Some things are more important than being believed, Ella replied simply. Commander, the judge continued, these documents explain your absence today and at previous hearings. What they don't explain is why you've chosen to appear now, and with your unit. The program remains classified, yet you've made a very public statement. Commander straightened. Sir, our unit completed its final mission 3 weeks ago. The program is being declassified in stages. When I learned of today's custody hearing and the questioning my daughter faced, I requested emergency partial declassification. It was granted this morning. She placed another document on the desk. This authorizes me to confirm my role and acknowledge female operators in naval special warfare. Mission specifics, training, and capabilities remain classified, and your unit's presence today, Judge Prescott asked. They volunteered, sir, to support me and Ella, to help correct a wrong done by the secrecy our mission required. Lieutenant Okafor spoke for the first time. Permission to speak, Your Honor? Judge Prescott nodded. Our unit operates as a family. Commander Blackwood led us through situations I cannot describe, testing every limit of human endurance. When we learned her daughter was being disbelieved and mocked, we unanimously requested to appear, to stand witness. Judge Prescott nodded slowly, then turned to Adrian. Mr. Blackwood, this changes your custody petition significantly. Do you wish to proceed? Adrian looked at his wife, then Ella. I don't know. I filed for custody because I believed Ella needed stability. I thought Commander chose absence. Now I learn she's been serving in ways I couldn't imagine. I need time to process this, Your Honor, Commander interjected. I've requested transfer to training operations, still classified but stateside with predictable hours. Our missions are complete. We've proven what needed to be proven. Judge Prescott closed the folder. This court will take this new information under advisement. Given the classified nature of much of this testimony, I'm sealing the record of today's proceedings. We'll reconvene in 2 weeks to revisit the custody arrangement in light of Commander Blackwood's changed circumstances. He turned to Ella. Young lady, I owe you an apology. You showed remarkable courage today, standing by the truth even when disbelieved by those in authority, including myself. That's a rare quality. Ella nodded, accepting the apology with the same composure she had maintained throughout. If there's nothing else, Judge Prescott said, this hearing is adjourned until 2 weeks from today. Commander Blackwood, please extend my respects to your unit. As they left the chambers, Ella walked between her pilots, not touching either but closer than before. The rest of the SEAL unit waited in the hallway, standing at attention as Commander Blackwood emerged. "At ease," she told them. "The judge has sealed the proceedings and adjourned." "Thank you for your presence today," Lieutenant Okafor stepped forward. "Permission to speak freely, Commander." Commander nodded. "Your daughter has the makings of an operator," Okafor said with a small smile. "Observant, disciplined, courageous under fire." Ella looked up, surprise and pride lighting her face. "That's enough, Lieutenant," Commander said, warmth threading her tone. "My daughter will choose her own path when the time comes." As they walked toward the courthouse exit, Adrian finally spoke. "Where will you stay tonight?" "Your apartment was elated years ago." "The Navy has arranged accommodations," Commander replied. "No," Ella's voice was firm. "Mom, come home with us." "Please." Just for tonight, Commander and Adrian exchanged a long, silent look over their daughter's head, years of separation and misunderstanding hanging between them. "Just for tonight," Adrian finally agreed. "We have a lot to talk about." Commander nodded, then turned to her unit. "Dismissed. Report to base at 0800 tomorrow." The SEALs saluted and departed, moving with the same precision they had shown in the courtroom. Only Lieutenant Okafor remained. "Commander," she said quietly, "the team wanted you to give this to your daughter." She handed Commander a small object, then saluted and walked away. Commander looked down. A challenge coin, the Special Operations insignia subtly marked for their program. "We give these to those who keep faith when everything tells them not to," she said, placing it in Ella's hand. "Welcome to the family." The coin gleamed in Ella's palm, a tangible validation of the truth she had known and protected all along. The Blackwood home stood on a quiet Philadelphia suburban street, colonial style, with a porch swing and basketball hoop. Commander paused at the steps, taking in a place she had visited only sporadically for 8 years. "Dad repainted last summer," Ella said, noticing her mother's gaze. "I helped with the trim." Adrian unlocked the door and stepped aside. "Inside is Diffa Ellet. We elevated the kitchen 2 years ago." Commander nodded, entering. Movement still precise and economical. Dark jeans and a simple shirt replaced her uniform, yet her bearing remained unmistakable. Family photos lined the walls, documenting Ella's growth. Soccer tournaments, science fairs, piano recitals. She stopped before each, studying the moments she had missed. "I kept albums for you," Adrian said quietly, with dates and descriptions. "They're in your study." Commander's surprise was evident. "You kept my study?" "It seemed important," he replied with a shrug, "for when you came home." Ella disappeared upstairs and returned with a small wooden box. "I kept things too," she said, placing it on the coffee table. "Things I thought you'd want to know about." Commander sat carefully, opening it to find mementos, report cards, certificates, medals from swimming competitions, handwritten notes. "You swim competitively?" Commander asked, lifting a gold medal. "Started when I was 9, Ella nodded. "Best at long distance. Coach says I have unusual endurance for my age." A hint of pride colored her tone. Commander traced the medal. "Your grandmother was a champion swimmer. My mother. She would have been proud." "I know," Ella said. "Dad talks about your family a lot. Make sure I know where I come from on both sides." Adrian moved to the kitchen. "I'll make dinner. You two have catching up to do." When Adrian left, Ella sat beside her mother, keeping a small, respectful distance. "Was it worth it?" she asked softly. "What you do? Was it worth missing everything in this box?" Commander considered the question seriously. "For the country, yes. For the program, for the women who follow us, yes." She looked directly at her daughter. "For you and me personally, no. That's the hardest part of service sometimes, balancing the greater good with personal cost." Ella nodded, absorbing this. She pulled the challenge coin from her pocket, running her thumb over its surface. What does this symbol mean? The one that's not the regular SEAL insignia. It marks us as part of the Integrated Experimental Unit, the first to include women, a designation of honor, and, until recently, absolute secrecy. Will there be more units like yours now? That's the plan. We were the test case. 8 years proving women could meet standards, execute missions, endure the same conditions. Pride tinged Commander's voice. It wasn't easy. Candidates were lost in training, traditional units resisted. Skepticism pervaded every level. Like the judge today, Ella said. Exactly. But results speak for themselves. Our unit holds one of the highest mission success rates in special operations history. From the kitchen came the familiar rhythm of chopping and pans clattering, Adrian preparing dinner, a domestic counterpoint to their conversation. Dad never dated anyone else, Ella said suddenly. People asked him out, but he always said he was married, even when angry about your absences. He never talked. Divorce Commander's expression softened. Your father is a man of principle. He believes in commitment. He believed in you, Ella corrected, even when he didn't understand. He believed there had to be a reason. He just couldn't reconcile it with what was best for me. Hence the custody hearing. Commander nodded. I understand his reasoning. In his position, I might have done the same. Will you stay now? Really stay? Ella asked, the question delicate, almost fragile. My new assignment is at the Naval Special Warfare Center in Virginia. 3 hours away, but I'd come home weekends, some weeknights. No more 6-month deployments, no more missed birthdays. Commander hesitated. If that's what you both want. Ella's answer was cut short as Adrian called them to dinner. The table was set for 3, a sight ordinary yet rare in the Blackwood household, carrying its own weight of meaning. They ate in silence, gradually easing into cautious conversation. The neighborhood, Ella's school, Adrian's latest research on naval history and the Revolutionary War. You could have consulted me on that one, Commander remarked with the faintest smile. I considered reaching out through your handler, Adrian admitted, but it seemed trivial compared to whatever you were doing. Nothing about your work is trivial, she replied. Your last book is on the recommended reading list for naval officers now. Adrian looked up, surprised. You know about the book? I keep track of your career, too, Commander said, even when I couldn't be here. After dinner, Ella helped clear the table, then announced she had homework. Hesitating at the bottom of the stairs, she asked, Mom, will you still be here in the morning? Yes, Commander promised. I don't report until afternoon tomorrow. Ella nodded, satisfied, and went upstairs, leaving her Pallas alone with years of unspoken words. Adrian poured 2 glasses of wine and led the way to the back porch. The evening air carried the first hint of autumn crispness. The garden below was neat, yet showing signs of the changing season. She's extraordinary, Commander said after a long silence. You've done an incredible job raising her. She's like you in all the ways that matter, Adrian replied. Determined, principled, observant. Stubborn as hell. Commander acknowledged this with a small nod. I've missed so much. The documents you saw in court today only scratch the surface of what we've been doing. The program's importance, its impact on women in special operations. Hard to overstate. I don't doubt it, Adrian said. What I've struggled with is not the importance of your work, but the cost to Ella, and to you. Commander added quietly, I'm an adult. I made my choices with open eyes when I married you, knowing your commitment to service. Adrian gazed out over the garden, the evening silence stretching between them, heavy with reflection and tentative hope. Ella didn't get that choice. No, she didn't, and that's something I'll have to make peace with, Commander said, turning toward him. What happens now, Adrian? With the custody case? With us? The custody case is simple enough. With your new stateside assignment, there's no reason to alter the Curlot arrangement. You're still her mother, still have legal custody alongside me. He took a sip of wine. As for us, that's more complicated. 8 years is a long time to live separate lives. Yes, it is. Commander's voice held only acknowledgement. I won't pretend I can walk back in and pick up where we left off. I know too much about what deployments do to relationships, how they change people. I'm not the same woman who left, and you're not the same man who stayed. No, Adrian agreed, but maybe that's not what matters most. What matters is whether the people we've become still fit together somehow, for Ella's sake, if nothing else. For Ella, Commander nodded, and maybe, eventually, for our own sakes too. They sat in silence as darkness settled over the garden, the distance on the porch swing both physical and metaphorical, yet somehow less vast than it had been that morning. 2 weeks later, they returned to the courthouse, this time Commander arriving with her family rather than her unit. She wore her service uniform rather than full-dress blues, less formal, still impeccable, signaling a different kind of presence. Judge Prescott's demeanor had completely transformed. He welcomed them to his chambers with respect bordering on défiance, particularly toward Ella. I've reviewed the amended custody agreement you've submitted, he said once seated. Joint physical and legal custody, with Commander Blackwood's primary residence being the family home for school enrollment and stability for the minor child. Your new assignment allows regular presence with scheduled absences for training rotations, outlined in the addendum. Accurate summary. Yes, Your Honor. Both Paellas confirmed. And Ella, the judge turned to her. You've reviewed this arrangement as well. I have, sir. It works for our family. Very well, given the circumstances and the agreement, I see no reason not to approve this arrangement. He signed with a flourish. This case is hereby resolved to the satisfaction of the court. Exiting the courthouse, Ella walked between her paellas on the broad stone steps, the autumn sun bathing the scene in golden light, so diffy a lot from the tension-filled day of their last appearance. Lieutenant Okafor waited at the bottom, out of uniform but still recognizable by her bearing. She nodded respectfully. Commander, she said, we'll be ready for you tomorrow at the training center. Everything is in place for the new program. Thank you, Lieutenant, Commander replied. I'll be there at 0700. As Okafor departed, Ella looked up at her mother. What new program? The one I'll be running, Commander explained, training the next generation of female special operators, building on what our unit started. Will you tell them about me? Ella asked. About the 12-year-old who figured out a top-secret program, kept it secret for years, faced a courtroom of disbelief with nothing but her conviction? Commander smiled, rare and full, transforming her face. You better believe it. You'll be Lesson 1 in observational skills and operational security. Adrian laughed, startling them all with its naturalness. Just what her ego needs. As they walked toward the car, Ella between them, she reached out and took both their hands, creating a connection for the first time in years. Home? She asked, a word heavy with hope and promise. Commander squeezed her hand, meeting Adrian's eyes over Ella's head. Something passed between them, a quiet understanding that transcended past complications and acknowledged work still ahead. Home, Commander confirmed, a promise in her voice that hadn't been there before. Behind them, the courthouse stood tall against the autumn sky, a place where truth outweighed assumption, judgment gave way to understanding, and a different kind of justice prevailed. Have you ever known someone who never asked for recognition but deserved it more than anyone else? Sometimes courage isn't found on the battlefield alone. It's in the quiet sacrifices made for those we love, in the nights spent apart, the birthdays missed, the milestones unseen. It's in the unwavering faith kept when no one else believes, when the world doubts, and even authority questions the truth. It's in Commander's choices, in Ella's courage, in Adrian's patience, moments invisible to most, yet monumental to those who live them. True heroism, it turns out, isn't always announced with fanfare or medals. It resides in the hearts of those who endure silently, who keep faith when disbelief surrounds them. In this story of the Blackwood family, courage is measured not just on battlefields or in courts, but in the bonds preserved, the trust defended, and the truth upheld against every odds.